I live in a quiet subdivision where nothing dramatic ever happens. The houses are close but not touching. Lawns trimmed on Saturdays. Porch lights on timers. At night, the street settles into a low electrical hum that feels almost artificial, like a sound machine set to suburban. I've always had trouble sleeping. Not dramatic kind. No pacing the hallway or staring at the clock in frustration. It's quieter than that. I just lie there longer than I should, waiting for my body to follow instructions my brain already agreed to. Midnight is usually when the house feels the most honest. The ceiling fan turns in slow, deliberate circles above me. I keep it on year-round. In summer, it pushes warm air around. In winter, it stirs the heat from vents. The chain clicks lightly every few rotations. I've timed it before without meaning to. Every 6 seconds. Click. Through the blinds. The streetlight casts narrow orange bars across the wall. When cars pass, the light shifts slightly, then returns to its place. The rhythm is predictable, comforting. The refrigerator downstairs hums. Pipes tick as they cool. A dog 2 hours down barks once around 12:30 every night, as if marking attendance. These things matter more when you don't sleep easily. You invent them. You build a map of sound, so nothing surprises you. I usually fall asleep on my back. I don't know when that started. It just feels neutral, balanced. My arms at my sides, sheets tucked loosely at my waist. The mattress dips slightly under my shoulders. Familiar pressure points. A few times over the years, I've woken up and found I couldn't move. Not panic-inducing at first, just strange, like my body forgot to reconnect. I'd lie there, aware of the fan turning, aware of the streetlight lines, aware of my own breathing, but unable to lift a hand. It always passed. A minute, maybe 2. Doctors call it sleep paralysis. Harmless, they say. A misfire between dreaming and waking. I accepted that, because everything else about my nights is so ordinary. The fan keeps turning. The streetlight keeps shining. The house keeps making its small, dependable noises. Nothing unusual ever happens here, except the nights I wake up already being watched. Not before midnight. Waking without waking, I wake up without moving. At first, I think I'm still dreaming. The room looks exactly as I left it. The ceiling fan turns in steady circles above me. Click. 6 seconds. Click. The sound lands where it always does, small and mechanical. The streetlight presses its orange bars across the wall. But something is wrong with my breathing. It's shallow, not panicked, just restrained, like my lungs are working through a narrow space. I try to swallow. Nothing happens. That's when I understand. Sleep paralysis. The word settles over me with surprising calm. I've had it before. A handful of times across the years. You wake up before your body does. The brain misfires. You wait it out. I keep my eyes open and focus on the fan. Click. The hallway night light spills a faint wedge of pale yellow through the crack beneath my bedroom door. Except the door isn't closed. It's open, just a few inches. I know I shut it. I always shut it. It's part of the routine. Door closed. Fan on. Blinds tilted. Phone face down on the dresser. The opening is narrow, but enough to reveal a strip of darker hallway beyond. The night light sits low on the wall out there. I can see its soft glow, steady and undisturbed. My chest feels heavier now. Not pressure, just weight. It's fine, I tell myself. I probably didn't latch the door completely. The air pressure from a vent could have nudged it. Houses shift. Hinges loosen. The fan keeps turning. Click. I try to lift my right hand. It doesn't move. I try to flex my toes. Nothing. The paralysis feels thicker tonight. Usually there's faint buzzing in my limbs, like distant static. Tonight, there's only stillness, deep and complete. I stare at the gap in the door. The darkness beyond it looks ordinary, flat, empty. And then, without warning, a thought slides into place. Do not close your eyes. It doesn't feel like advice. It feels like instruction. My eyes are already open, but suddenly I'm aware of how dry they are, how badly they want to blink. The air from the fan brushes across them in slow intervals. Cool, dry, insistent. Do not close your eyes. The thought repeats, firm and clear. I try to reason with it. During past episodes, I've closed my eyes and waited it out. Sometimes that helps. You drift, the body reconnects. You wake fully, but this thought carries weight. Urgency, not panic, not fear, a warning. The fan clicks again, and the sound seems louder than it should be. The hallway light hums faintly. A detail I've never noticed before. My eyelids twitch. The dryness builds at the corners. Reflex pushes against restraint. Do not close your eyes. The door remains slightly open. The hallway beyond it unchanged. Still, harmless. Yet the longer I stare, the more the air in the room feels occupied. Not crowded, just shared. I focus on the fan again, counting rotations, measuring seconds, trying to prove this is normal, trying to shrink the room back into something explainable. My eyes burn. I hold them open anyway, and I will wait to see what happens next. At first, I think it's a trick of shadow. The hallway light is steady, but the angle of the door leaves a wedge of darkness in the far corner of my room. I've seen that shadow 1,000 times. It belongs there. It's shaped by the dresser and the edge of the closet frame. Tonight, it looks deeper, not darker. Deeper. The fan turns overhead. Click. 6 seconds. Click. My eyes stay open. They are sting now. The dryness spreads across them like a thin film. I fight the reflex to blink longer than necessary. Do not close your eyes. The instruction doesn't repeat this time. It lingers. I stare at the corner near the door, tracing the outline of the shadow, reminding myself where the wall meets the trim, where the baseboard runs, where the carpet darkens slightly from years of vacuum lines. And then I notice the height. The shadow reaches higher than it should. It doesn't stretch across the ceiling. It doesn't move. It simply occupies vertical space that wasn't there before. A narrow column pressed into the corner where 2 walls meet. Human height. My breathing becomes quieter, instinctively shallow, as if something in me doesn't want to be heard. This is common, I tell myself. Hypnagogic hallucination. The brain fills in shapes. It searches for threats in low light. It invents silhouettes because silhouettes are efficient. The fan clicks again. The shape remains. It isn't detailed. No edges, no features, just an absence that stands upright, slightly forward from the wall. I try to focus directly on it. When I do, it seems thinner, less certain. My vision wavers from the strain of holding still. The room trembles faintly at the edges, like heat rising from asphalt. I feel the urge to blink hard, to reset the image. I blink once. Quick. When my eyes reopen, the shape feels closer. Not by much, but closer. The distance between the door frame and the darkness has narrowed. The corner seems more occupied than before, as if the shadow has leaned out from its place. My pulse ticks in my ears. The hallway beyond the door remains unchanged. The nightlight hums faintly. The fan continues its patient rotation. Nothing else in the room has shifted, only that corner. I will test it. A deliberate, slower blink, not fully closed, just enough to blur the light. When my eyes open again, the shape stands slightly forward from the wall, detached now, no longer fused with the corner. It doesn't glide. It doesn't step. It simply occupies a new position. My throat tightens. The rule clarifies itself without words. It moves when I can't see it. The realization settles heavily, but not chaotically. There is a structure here. Cause and effect. Blink and advance. If I keep my eyes open, it stays where it is. If I close them, I hold my stare on it, forcing my vision to stay fixed despite the burn. The shape does not sway. It does not breathe. It does not tilt its head. But I feel watched, not aggressively, attentively. The fan clicks. 6 seconds. Click. My eyes water now. Tears gather at the lower rims, distorting the edges of the room. The salt stings. I cannot keep this up forever. The thought lands quietly, practical and cold. The paralysis still grips me. My hands remain pinned at my sides, my legs inert beneath the sheets. The only control I have is my gaze. The shape stands between me and the door now, not fully blocking it, but claiming the space near it, waiting, For me to fail, I don't turn on the overhead lights. I sit at the edge of my bed with only the lamp on the nightstand, the bulb dim and yellow, casting a small circle that doesn't quite reach the corners. The door is closed now, fully latched. I check the hinge. I check the frame. It's 3:12 a.m. I know because I've looked at the clock 3 times at the last minute. The house feels normal again. Pipes ticking softly. The refrigerator humming downstairs. The same quiet suburb pressing in from outside. If something had stood beside my bed minutes ago, it left no trace. I picked up my phone. The screen's white glow feels harsh in the dark. I search the words carefully. Sleep paralysis, shadow figure can't move. The results load instantly. Articles from medical sites. Forums. Threads years old. Common experience. One headline reads, harmless but frightening. I scroll. People describe pressure on their chest. A presence in the room. A dark silhouette in the corner. A figure at the foot of the bed. My shoulders loosen slightly as I read. The descriptions mirror mine almost exactly. The standing shape. The inability to scream. The intense realism. Your brain is partially dreaming. One explanation says, the threat detection system is active while your body remains immobilized. The mind fills darkness with forms. It makes sense. It always makes sense in text. I read more. Some say closing their eyes helps end the episode faster. Others say they try to wiggle their toes. Some recommend steady breathing. No one mentions keeping their eyes open as a rule. I searched again. Should you keep your eyes open during sleep paralysis? Results: it doesn't matter. Close them if you're frightened. Close them. The word sits strangely in my chest. I think about the instructions that formed in my mind. Do not close your eyes. It didn't feel like advice I constructed. It didn't feel like panic either. It felt imposed. Clear. Direct. But that doesn't prove anything. The brain can generate commands under stress. Fight or flight. Freeze. Focus. Maybe that's all it was. A survival instinct misfiring inside a dream state. I set the phone down and listen. The fan continues its slow rotation overhead. Click. 6 seconds. Click. I've heard that sound every night for years. It's always been neutral. Background. Mechanical comfort. Now it feels measured. Like a metronome, keeping time for something I can't see. Click. I look at the door. Closed. Still. I tell myself that shadows don't move. That distance cannot change without motion. That my mind filled in the gaps between blinks because it needed continuity. Click. The sound lands sharper than before. Not louder. Closer. I lie back carefully, staring at the ceiling. The explanations online are calm, clinical, reassuring, but none of them account for the rule. And I can't decide which possibility unsettles me more, that I invented it, or that I didn't. The next night, I am preparing for it, not dramatically. I don't salt the doorway or rearrange furniture. I just follow the routine more carefully than usual. Door closed. I press the latch until I hear it settle. Closet pushed nearly shut, though it never seals completely because of the warped frame. Fan on low, phone face down. I lie on my back and tell myself that if it happens again, I will treat it like a symptom, nothing more. The house cools gradually as the heat cycles off. The sheets feel crisp against my legs. The fan draws a slow path through the air above me. Click. 6 seconds. Click. I don't remember drifting. I wake into it. There's no gentle confusion this time. No soft uncertainty between dream and room. I open my eyes and I am already trapped. The weight is immediate. My arms feel fuss of the mattress. My chest rises in shallow pulls, like I'm breathing through fabric. Even my eyelids feel heavier, as if gravity has increased only in this bed. The door is closed. That's the first thing I check. Closed. Straight. No gap of hallway light. The closet, though, is slightly open, wider than I left it. A narrow slice of darkness inside darkness. Do not close your eyes. The rule returns before I have to think about it. Stronger this time. Not a suggestion. A boundary. My eyes are dry already. The fan's breeze schemes across them in slow intervals. The air feels cooler tonight, thinner against my skin. I look toward the space between the closet and the bed. It stands there, closer than before. Not at the corner, not at the foot of the bed, halfway along the right side. Its outline is clearer now only in the sense that it occupies space with intention. The top of it aligns roughly with the top of the doorframe. Its width is narrow but solid. It does not blend into shadow anymore. It interrupts it. It isn't touching the bed. There's still distance. 3 feet, maybe 4. Enough space for something to happen. The fan clicks. The sound feels slower tonight, though I know it isn't. The figure does not sway. It does not lean. It watches. I can't see eyes, but I feel the direction of attention, the way you feel someone looking at you in a grocery store aisle. My pulse thuds in my throat. I try to move my fingers. Nothing. The paralysis is heavier than the previous nights. There's no static in my limbs. No tingling warning that control might return soon. Just complete suspension. I focus on the rules. If I keep my eyes open, it remains there. If I close them, my eyelids twitch. The dryness builds quickly now, as if the air itself is encouraging failure. Tears gather and distort the edges of the shape. It looks taller when it blurred. Do not close your eyes. The thought presses harder. The entity doesn't advance. It waits. The space between us feels deliberate, measured, as if it has already calculated how much further it needs to go. My eyes begin to ache in a way that feels structural, not surface dryness. Something deeper. The pressure behind them, like they've been held open too long under bright light. The fan continues its slow rotation overhead. Click. 6 seconds. Click. The rhythm feels indifferent to what's happening below it. The figure remains 3 or 4 feet from the bed, waiting. I focus on a fixed point on the wall behind it, trying to keep my gaze steady. The longer I hold still, the more my vision trembles at the edges. Fine distortions ripple across the room. The darkness thickens and thins in subtle waves. Do not close your eyes. The instruction is steady now. Familiar. My eyelids twitch anyway. It happens faster than I intend. A reflex misfire. I blink to lubricate the burn, expecting the quick, control closure I practiced since it started. But my eyes close a fraction too long. Not fully, not willingly. Just enough for darkness to press in deeper than a normal blink. When I open them again, the room feels smaller. The figure stands at the foot of the bed. The shift is undeniable. There was distance before. Measurable space. Now it occupies the end of the mattress, aligned with my feet beneath the sheets. If it leaned forward, it could touch the blanket. My pulse spikes hard, a sharp thud that echoes in my ears. The paralysis tightens in response, as if even my heartbeat must stay contained. It does not rush. It does not sway. It stands. The air near my legs feels colder. I swallow mentally, though my throat refuses to move. I tell myself it's incremental, that my mind is filling in the gap between what I expected and what I fear. But the geometry of the room has changed in a way that feels exact. The door remains closed. The closet remains slightly open. The fan continues its mechanical arc. Only the distance has shortened. My eyes burn harder now, aggravated by panic. Tears gather and spill sideways toward my temples. I try to blink carefully, a controlled, shallow motion, but the moisture makes it worse. My eyelids stick for a fraction longer than intended. Darkness folds over my vision. When it clears, the figure stands at the side of the bed, close enough that I can sense its height relative to my own body. Its upper portion extends above my line of sight unless I strain upward. It is angled toward me, downward, as if looking directly at my face. I cannot see features. The place where a face should be is indistinct, like depth without detail. But the orientation is unmistakable. Attention focused. Proximity claimed. The fan clicks again. The sound feels distant now, like it belongs to another room. The air along my right shoulder is cooler, denser. The mattress dips almost imperceptibly, though I can't confirm it. I feel the possibility of weight being beside me. My eyelids tremble violently. I force them open. The paralysis shatters without warning. It's abrupt, like a cord being cut. My arms jerk upward. My lungs fill deeply in a loud, involuntary inhale. The room snaps back into ordinary scale. The space beside the bed is empty. The closet remains slightly open. The door closed. The fan is steady and indifferent overhead. Relief floods through me, shaky and incomplete, but the distance it covered remains exactly in my mind. It was at the foot of the bed. Then it was beside me, and I know I did not imagine that change. Just the structured heading and the narrative. I'm ready. The next morning, I measured the door, not because I think it moved on its own, but because I need to prove that it didn't. I wait until daylight fills the room completely. Sunlight through the blinds replaces the streetlight's orange bands with pale stripes that feel cleaner, less suggestive. The fan turns above me, ordinary again. The house sounds smaller in the day, manageable. I take a measuring tape from the kitchen drawer and kneel beside the hinged side of the bedroom door. Closed, it sits flush with the frame. I check the latch depth, the alignment, the gap along the top edge. Everything is even. I open it exactly 3 inches, then step back and look at it from the bed. The angel feels familiar. I measure that too. 3 inches create a narrow wedge of hallway visible from my pillow. I lie down and confirm the line of sight. The nightlight in the hall is low on the wall, near the floor outlet. If the door were open this much, I would see its glow as a thin sliver. I tried 4 inches, then 5. At 5, the light becomes unmistakable. I sit up again and write the numbers down on my phone. Door fully closed. 0 visible hallway light. 3 inches, faint wedge. 5 inches, clear spill. I don't know why I'm cataloging this, but the distances from the last 2 nights replay precisely in my head. The angle, the depth of the darkness is beyond. The closet is next. The hinge sticks halfway. It always has. I open it slowly and let it rest at the position I remember from the episode. A narrow opening, enough to suggest space inside but not reveal detail. From the bed, that gap looks like a darker square inside a softer dark. I measure that too. 2 inches. I document it. Then I sit back on the mattress and look around the room as if I'm seeing it for the first time. The dresser against the wall. The mirror above it reflects a slice of ceiling. The fan shadows sliding in slow circles. The carpet fibers flatten where I step each day. Everything has fixed dimensions. Everything occupies measurable space. Last night, it stood halfway between the closet and the bed, then at foot, then beside me. If I can define the room precisely enough, maybe I can trap the memory inside something rational. I download a decibel meter app and hold the phone up toward the fan. The clicking registers softly, consistent peaks every 6 seconds. No fluctuation. I record 30 seconds of sound and play it back. It sounds the same, but when I listen closely, there's a subtle variation I can't quantify. Not louder, not slower, just intentional. I set the phone down. I lie flat on my back and align my gaze with the ceiling. I trace the path from the fan to the door to the closet, committing distances to memory. 8 feet from bed to door, 4 from bed to closet, roughly 3 feet from the side of the mattress to the dresser. If something moves again, I want to know exactly how far. I don't tell anyone about this, because the logic still holds. Sleep paralysis is common. Hallucinations are common. Rooms do not change shape. But tonight, when I close the door and lie on my back, I will know every inch of space between me and the corner where it chooses to stand. That night, I didn't try to fall asleep. I study in the room instead. Door closed. I checked the latch twice. Closet resting at exactly 2 inches open. I confirmed it with a tape measure before getting into bed. The fan rotates above me, its chain ticking every 6 seconds. I let the sound settle into my breathing. If it happens again, I need clarity, not fear, not guessing. Data. I lie flat on my back, arms aligned with my sides. I map the ceiling in my mind. From the center of the fan to the upper corner of the doorframe is 8 feet. From the foot of the bed to the closet opening is just under 4. I repeat the distances until they feel memorized. Sleep comes anyway, not gently. One moment, I'm counting rotations. The next, I'm awake inside the weight. Paralysis arrives fully formed. No transition. My chest moves in shallow pulls. My limbs feel anchored beneath the sheets. Even my tongue feels fixed against the floor of my mouth. The door is closed. The closet is at 2 inches, and it stands exactly where it did last time, between the closet and the foot of the bed, 3.5 feet from a mattress. The precision makes my stomach tighten. Do not close your eyes. The rule surfaces before panic can. I obey. The fan clicks. 6 seconds. Click. The figure does not move while I stare at it. It doesn't sway. It doesn't lean. It waits. My eyes begin to burn within seconds. The air feels drier tonight. The fan's current brushes across my face, cool and repetitive. I count rotations instead of seconds. 1, 2, 3. Still there. I blink. Quick. Controlled. When my eyes open, it has advanced. Not dramatically. Maybe a foot closer. Now roughly 2.5 feet from the bed. My pulse jumps hard against the inside of my ribs. The geometry has shifted. I force myself to breathe slowly through my nose. I keep my gaze fixed. It remains in place while I look at it. The rule sharpens. It moves when I cannot see. Not when I panic. Not when I think. When I lose visual contact. I test it. A deliberate blink. Longer this time. Not fully closed. Just enough to allow darkness to thicken. When my vision returns, it stands at the foot of the bed, exactly where it stood the night before after the first long blink. The repetition is precise. The distance rule. The realization settles with a cold clarity that feels worse than fear. It isn't random. It's incremental. Every interruption in sight grants a progress. The fan clicks again, steady and indifferent. My eyes water heavily now. Tears distort the outline of the figure, making it appear taller, broader. I hold them open. It doesn't move. I count another rotation. Then, carefully, I close my eyes for a full second. Not an accident. A test. Darkness presses in completely. When I open them, it stands beside the bed, close enough that I feel the change in air pressure along my right arm. Close enough that if it extended something toward me, I would feel it. The experiment confirms it. Distance is purchased in darkness, and I have already paid more than I should have. The third night feels procedural. I no longer wait for reassurance from medical articles or daylight logic. I want confirmation. I align the room exactly as before. The door closed and latched, the closet resting at 2 measured inches, the fan turning on its lowest setting. So the clicking remains steady but not loud. I lie flat on my back and review the distances in my mind. 3.5 feet from closet to bed, 2.5 after 1 blink, 0 if I surrender control. The structure is consistent. That consistency is the only thing that steadies me. Sleep takes me quietly, and the paralysis arrives without transition. My body locks in place as if it has rehearsed this. My breathing is shallow but controlled. The door is closed. The closet is open exactly as arranged, and it stands between them, occupying the same starting position as before, precise as a marker on a blueprint. I feel less shock this time and more dread, because repetition confirms design. The rule forms immediately and clearly in my mind. Do not close your eyes. I hold my gaze on it. The figure remains still while observed. No sway, no distortion, no sign of effort. The fan clicks overhead. 6 seconds. Click. I blink. And this time, I don't remember closing them. That creates post-story dread. Audience leaves with lingering instability. I close my eyes for 1 full second. I count it internally. When I open them, it stands at the foot of the bed, exactly as predicted. The distance compresses cleanly. No glide. No intermediate position. Just relocation. My pulse increases, but I keep my breathing even. The paralysis holds firm. I cannot move anything except my eyes. I repeat the test. 1 full second of darkness. When my vision clears, it is beside the bed, close enough that the shape interrupts the faint light reflecting off the dresser mirror. I feel the air near my right shoulder cool slightly, though the fan's speed has not changed. The proximity feels engineered. There is no randomness here. No chaotic nightmare logic. Only increments. The rule sharpens further. Movement requires absence. It does not advance while seen. It waits for surrender, however brief. My eyelids tremble violently now from strain. Tears pool and distort the figure's outline. I understand something else with sudden clarity. If 1 second moves it this far, longer closures might do more than close distance. The pattern suggests escalation. There may be thresholds I have not yet crossed. The fear that settles over me is no longer about seeing it. It is about what happens if I don't. By the 4th night, the fear has changed shape. It is no longer sharp or reactive. It is anticipatory. I go through routine with controlled precision. Door closed and latched. Closet set to the same 2-inch opening. Fan rotating at its measured speed. I lie on my back and feel the mattress support the familiar points along my shoulders and calves. The house hums softly around me. Everything appears stable. That stability feels rehearsed. When paralysis takes me, it feels expected. My body locks into stillness as if continuing a pattern rather than interrupting one. My breathing is shallow but steady. The door remains closed. The closet remains open exactly as arranged. And it stands to the right of the bed, already closer than the first night appeared, as though the starting point itself has shifted forward over time. I keep my eyes fixed directly on it. While I stare, it does not move. The outline remains steady, neither expanding nor contracting. The fan clicks overhead, 6 seconds between each mechanical note. I begin counting rotations instead of seconds, using the rhythm as a way to anchor myself. If observation freezes it, then observation is control. But staring directly becomes difficult. My eyes begin to water quickly now, the strain building faster than before. I let my gaze drift slightly to the left, not closing my eyes, only shifting focus, so the figure rests at the edge of my vision. In my peripheral sight, something changes. It appears less stable there, not advancing, but subtly repositioning. The upper portion seems to tilt, as if recalculating its angle toward me. When I snap my gaze back to it directly, the shape holds still again, rigid and vertical. I test it carefully. I look at the fan for 1 full rotation, without blinking. When my eyes return to the figure, it stands marginally closer, not as dramatic as a full blink, not a complete relocation. But the distance has tightened by inches rather than feet. The discovery unsettles me more than the earlier jumps. Direct sight freezes it completely. Peripheral sight allows partial movement. Full darkness grants it larger steps. The rule is more layered than I understood. It does not simply move when unseen. It moves according to how unseen it is. My breathing remains controlled, but a deeper tension spreads through my chest. The system feels deliberate, almost adaptive. It responds to degrees of attention. I shift my gaze again, letting it rest just beside the figure. The edges of its outline seem less defined in peripheral view, as if it occupies space more confidently when not confronted head-on. When I force myself to stare directly at it again, it stiffens into stillness. The fan continues its patient clicking overhead, indifferent to the recalibration happening beneath it. I understand now that keeping my eyes open is not enough. I must also keep them focused, and that requires more endurance than blinking ever did. The 5th night does not wait for sleep to settle deeply. The paralysis arrives almost as soon as my thoughts begin to blur. One moment, I am listening to the familiar hum of the house. The next, I am fixed in place, eyes open, lungs pulling in shallow, careful breaths. The door is closed. The closet remains at its measured opening. The fan turns above me with its steady 6-second click, a sound that has always belonged to the background of my life. Tonight, it feels layered. It stands at the foot of the bed immediately. There is no distant starting point now, no courtesy of space to measure. The baseline has shifted forward again. I hold my gaze directly on it, knowing what peripheral weakness can allow. The figure remains still while confronted, upright and angled toward me. The air between us feels dense, as though something invisible fills the gap. I focus on the fan's rhythm to steady myself. Click, 6 seconds. Click, between the mechanical notes. I begin to notice something else. Not louder than the fan, not separate from it, but threaded through it. A faint modulation beneath the rotation. At first I assume it is airflow changing pitch as the blades pass over chain. A normal acoustic fluctuation. I listen harder. The sound resolves slowly, not into a word but into intention, a shape inside the noise. The whisper does not interrupt the clicking. It rides under it, synchronized with the turning blades. Each rotation seems to drag a faint syllable across the ceiling and down toward the bed. Close. The word is not fully formed, but the impression of it presses against my ears. I tell myself it is pattern recognition. The brain invents speech from repetition all the time. Static becomes language. Fans become voices. This is known. The figure remains motionless while I stare. The whisper continues beneath the mechanical rhythm. Close. My eyes sting fiercely now. Tears blur my sight, making the edges of the figure ripple. I resist the urge to blink. Direct gaze holds it in place. I test the theory carefully, shifting my focus just slightly to the left so it sits at the edge of my vision. The whisper grows clearer. Close them. The words do not echo through the room. They do not vibrate the air. They seem to exist exactly where the fan's clicking exists, braided into the sound itself. The mechanical rhythm becomes a carrier wave for instruction. My pulse begins to pound against the inside of my throat. The figure appears unchanged, yet the atmosphere feels altered, as though something has leaned closer without moving. Close them. The command aligns perfectly with the burn in my eyes. The dryness intensifies, as if the room has thinned the air deliberately. The fan continues to turn, indifferent in appearance but no longer neutral in sound. I force my gaze directly back onto the figure. It stiffens into absolute stillness again, as if observation denies it the right to advance. The whisper dulls slightly but does not vanish. It waits beneath the clicking, patient and precise. I understand something new with quiet certainty. The rule was not a warning born from fear. It was opposition. When I wake, it is abrupt and disorienting, as though someone has cut the power to a machine mid-cycle. My arms jerk upward, returning control, and the first full breath I take feels too large for my lungs. The fan continues its slow rotation overhead, the clicking steady and mechanical again, stripped of any layered whisper. The room is filled with early gray light, the kind that flattens everything into ordinary shapes. For a few seconds, I lie there and listen, expecting some residue of the night to remain in the air. There is nothing except the house, settling, and the distant hum of traffic beginning to build beyond the subdivision. I sit up carefully. The door is still closed. The closet remains at its measured opening. Nothing appears disturbed. The carpet shows no indentations beyond my own footprints from yesterday. The dresser mirror reflects the ceiling and the spinning fan exactly as it should. If someone had walked across the room, there would be evidence. The house is old enough that it records movement in small ways. Dust shifts, fibers bend, sound carries. I swing my legs over the side of the bed, and my heel touches something rough. I look down, near the right side of the mattress, where the figure has been ending its approach. The carpet fibers are slightly frayed. Not torn, not ripped up, just disturbed in a narrow line, as though something rigid dragged lightly across the surface. I kneel to inspect it more closely. The marks run parallel for several inches, faint but distinct against the flattened pile. They were not there before. I vacuumed 3 days ago. I remember the clean, uniform pattern left behind. My throat tightens. I press my palm against the floor beside the marks. The carpet feels cool, cooler than the rest of the room. That might be imagination. That might be morning air pooling low. I stand and move to the bathroom mirror. There is dry blood at the base of my left nostril, a thin, dark trace that must have formed during the night. I wipe it away with a damp cloth and examine my face under the light. My eyes are bloodshot, more than simple fatigue would account for. The vessels look strained, as if they've been held under pressure. Nosebleeds can happen from dry air. Carpet can fray from ordinary wear. Every detail has a plausible explanation when isolated, but the placement is precise. The marks begin exactly where it has been standing. The dryness in my eyes aligns exactly with the command threaded beneath the fan. I return to the bedroom and stand at the side of the bed, measuring the distance with my steps. 3 feet from mattress to mark, the same span it crossed after the second long blink. I do not feel watched in the daylight, but I no longer feel alone in the room either. Something has begun to leave traces, however subtle, and that changes the structure of what I am dealing with. I decide that if this continues, I need something that exists outside my own perception. Memory can distort. Fear can rearrange details. A recording cannot. That is the assumption. Anyway, I spend the evening setting my phone on the dresser, angled carefully toward the bed. I test the frame twice, adjusting it until the entire mattress, the closed door, and the closet opening are visible. The fan remains just at the top edge of the shot, its blades cutting through the dim light in slow rotation. I dim the room to the level I normally sleep in. No theatrical darkness. Just the streetlight filtering through the blinds and the faint glow from the hallway seeping under the door. Before lying down, I sit on the edge of the mattress and speak quietly toward the phone. I explain the rule in plain terms. During paralysis, I must not close my eyes. The figure advances only in darkness. I say it calmly, as if documenting a minor experiment. Hearing the words aloud makes them feel both absurd and precise. The house hums softly around me. Nothing in the air suggests threat. I lie back and position my arms at my sides. The sheets rest lightly over my legs. The fan clicks every 6 seconds, steady and neutral. I keep my eyes open longer than usual, aware of the lens observing me. If something appears, it will appear on video. That thought steadies me more than it should. Sleep arrives gradually this time. My last clear memory is counting 3 full rotations of the fan. Paralysis takes me without warning. My body locks into stillness, heavier than before. The sensation feels practiced now, as if the mechanism activates smoothly. My breathing shallows. The door remains closed. The closet is open at its measured angle, and it stands inches from the foot of the bed. There is no starting distance anymore. It has learned efficiency. Do not close your eyes. The rule surfaces instantly, cutting through the surge of adrenaline. I focus directly on the shape. The figure does not move while seen. Its outline interrupts the faint glow from the window, tall and narrow, angled toward me. The fan continues its mechanical rotation overhead. Click. 6 seconds. Click. I remind myself that the camera is recording. If it advances, there will be proof. That thought anchors me as my eyes begin to burn within seconds. The dryness is immediate, aggressive, as if the air is thinned deliberately. Tears gather and blur the edges of the figure. The whisper returns beneath the fan's rhythm. Close them. It is clearer tonight, almost synchronized perfectly with the clicking. The sound does not echo. It exists exactly where the mechanical noise exists, braided into it. Close them. My eyelids tremble violently. The urge to blink is overwhelming now. No longer simple reflex, but a command pressing from both inside and outside. The air near my face feels colder than the rest of the room. I keep my gaze locked on it. It waits. And I understand that whatever happens next will not be imagined away by morning. The burn in my eyes builds fast, sharper than any night before. It feels engineered now, not incidental. The fan continues its measured rotation overhead. Each click spaced evenly apart, indifferent and precise. Beneath it, the whisper threads itself through the sound, clearer than before. Close them. The figure stands so near the foot of the bed that I can measure its height against the doorframe behind it. It does not sway. It does not lean. It simply occupies space with intent. My body remains pinned, lungs pulling in shallow, controlled breaths. I remind myself that the phone is recording from the dresser. The lens is pointed directly at us. That thought gives me something external to cling to. I force my gaze to remain fixed on the place where a face should be. The outline is still indistinct, a vertical absence that absorbs detail. My eyes water heavily now. Tears pool and spill sideways toward my temples. The salt stings. The dryness does not ease. Close them. The command aligns perfectly with the pain. My eyelids tremble uncontrollably. I know that small blinks grant small advances. 1 second grants feet. I have never tested longer than that. I have never allowed full darkness beyond a measured count. The whisper grows firmer, almost conversational beneath the fan's rhythm. Close them. My vision begins to fragment at the edges from strain. Tiny bursts of static flicker in the corners of my sight. The figure remains frozen under direct observation, but the air between us feels charged, waiting for a release I control. I decide to measure it, not accidentally, not from weakness, deliberately. If there is structure, I need to understand its limits. I inhale slowly through my nose. The air feels thin, cooler than it should be. I count one more full rotation of the fan. Click. 6 seconds. Click. Then I close my eyes. Fully, darkness folds over me, complete and immediate. There is no gradual dimming, no residual glow, just total absence. The whisper stops. The fan continues, but the clicking sounds distant now, muffled as if underwater. I begin counting internally. 1, 2, 3. At 3 seconds, panic spikes hard against my ribs. The urge to open my eyes becomes overwhelming, almost violent. I force myself to continue. 4, 5. The air feels close to my face now, as though something has entered the space above me. My skin prickles along my arms. I sense pressure near my chest, not weight exactly, but proximity. 6. The count fractures. Fear surges through paralysis like electricity trapped beneath ice. I open my eyes. The room reappears abruptly. The fan is still turning. The door is still closed, and it is no longer at the foot of the bed. It hovers inches above my body, leaning over me, its shape eclipsing part of the ceiling. The space between where its face should be and my own is no more than a hand's width. The features are still indistinct, but the orientation is unmistakable. It is studying me at close range. The air around my face feels cold and metallic. The whisper does not return. The fan continues its slow, patient clicking overhead, and I understand that 6 seconds was too long. It does not touch me. That is the first thing I register. For all its proximity, for the way it eclipses the ceiling light and interrupts the slow arc of the fan's shadow, it does not make contact. It hovers just above my chest and face, angled downward as if suspended by something I cannot see. The distance between us is so small that my breath should reach it. I cannot feel my breath leave my mouth, but I imagine it striking whatever surface stands inches away. The fan clicks once more. Then it stops. There is no gradual slowdown, no mechanical whine. One rotation completes. The chain swings lightly, and the motion ceases midair. The sudden absence of that rhythm collapses the room into a dense, suffocating quiet. Even the refrigerator hummed downstairs seems to vanish. All that remains is my shallow breathing and the awareness of something occupying the air above me. Its face is wrong in a way that is difficult to describe because it refuses stable detail. The outline suggests features, but they do not settle. The area where eyes should be appears slightly deeper than the rest, like impressions in soft material. The mouth region shifts subtly, as though forming expressions that never finalize. The closer I try to focus, the less distinct it becomes, as if clarity itself is rejected. Then something changes. The proportions begin to align. Not perfectly, but intentionally. The spacing of the impressions where eyes should sit adjusts. The length of the lower portion reshapes slightly. I recognize the geometry before I accept it. It is approximating my face. Not copying exactly, but calibrating toward it. The angle of the brow matches the tension I feel in my own. The tilt of the head mirrors the slight inclination of mine against the pillow. It is not a reflection. It is an interpretation, refining itself in real time. My pulse pounds so loudly I am certain it must hear it. I attempt to swallow, but the paralysis still holds. My body is a fixed object beneath something that studies and adapts. The air grows colder near my mouth and nose, metallic and thin. I have the distinct sensation that if I were to close my eyes now, even briefly, the remaining distance between us would disappear entirely. Its mouth shifts again. The whisper does not come from the fan anymore. It comes from it. Close them. The sound is faint but direct, not carried by mechanical rhythm this time. The words seem to press against my skin rather than enter my ears. The fan remains frozen overhead, blade suspended mid-turn. The house is silent. Its face continues to approximate mine, refining the angles, smoothing the distortions. It is not perfect, but it is close enough that recognition stirs something primal and sick in my chest. I keep my eyes open. They burn fiercely now, tears streaming sideways into my hair. The dryness feels secondary to the terror of surrender. I understand with cold certainty that the rule has never been about distance alone. It has been about replacement. Its features settle into a configuration that almost matches my own. Almost. And it waits for me to close the gap. I don't sleep again after that. When the paralysis breaks, it does so violently. My arms jerk upward, striking empty air where it had hovered. The fan resumes turning mid-rotation, as if nothing interrupted it. The mechanical clicking returns with perfect rhythm. The room snaps back into ordinary scale. The space above me is empty. I sit upright for a long time before I can trust my legs to stand. The door remains closed. The closet remains open 2 inches. The phone is still on the dresser, its screen dark. I don't check the footage immediately. I wait until noon. Daylight feels necessary. Proof should be examined in full light, not in the residue of night. By midday, the house is warm and active with small suburban sounds, distant lawn equipment, a car door slamming somewhere down the street, a delivery truck braking at the corner. The ordinariness feels stabilizing. I sit at the kitchen table with my phone in front of me. The video file is there, 8 hours long. I press play. For the first several hours, nothing happens. I watch myself sleeping on my back, arms at my sides, the fan turning steadily above. The door remains closed the entire time. The closet remains open at the same narrow angle. No shadows detach from corners. No movement occurs in the background. At the timestamp where I remember paralysis beginning, I see my eyes open abruptly. I stare forward without moving. My body remains perfectly still, exactly as I experienced it. There is no visible figure at the foot of the bed, no shape beside me. The space above my chest is empty. The fan continues turning. I lean closer to the screen. My eyes on the recording are wide and fixed, unblinking for long stretches. Tears eventually spill sideways toward my temples, visible in the faint streetlight glow. The image is grainy, but clear enough to confirm that I am alone in the frame. Then I reach the moment, the longest blink. On video, my eyelids close fully. The room remains still for 2 seconds. 3, 4. The fan is turning. At the 6th second, the frame distorts. Not dramatically. There is no flash, no glitch screen. The image warps slightly, as if the lens briefly passes through heat shimmer. The fan blades appear to slow for a fraction of a second, though the timestamp continues uninterrupted. A shadow passes across the lens. It is not cast from the door or the closet. The angle is wrong. It moves downward from the top of the frame, briefly dimming the image near my face. My eyes on the video remain closed. When they open again, I am staring upward at something the camera does not show. My breathing on the recording becomes shallower. The fan resumes its perfect rhythm. The shadow is gone. I rewind. I watch the distortion again. The fan does not simply pause. It hesitates. I replay the footage again, this time forcing myself to watch without blinking. The kitchen is bright, ordinary. The sound of a car passing outside grounded me in something solid. On the screen, my bedroom looks smaller than it feels at night. The fan rotates with mechanical indifference. The door is closed. The closet remains open at the precise angle I measured. I move the scrub bar slowly until I reach the moment my eyes close. The timestamp reads 00:02:17:12. I pause and advance frame by frame. For 5 seconds, nothing changes. My body lies motionless, eyelids sealed, chest rising shallowly. The fan completes a full rotation. The light from the window remains constant. Then, at the 6th second, the image destabilizes in a way that cannot be dismissed as compression. The lower edge of the fan blade appears partially obscured, as if something intersects the air beneath it. The pixels darken into a narrow vertical mass above my chest. I freeze the frame and zoom in despite the loss of clarity. The shape is present for only a fraction of a second, but it occupies depth. It is not a flat shadow cast from the side. It leans downward from above, its upper portion elongated beyond natural proportion. The area where a face would be is angled toward my own, and though detail refuses to settle, there is clear spatial interference between it and the ceiling fan. The blade that should pass cleanly through that space is visually interrupted. I advance 1 frame. The obstruction disappears. The fan continues its arc as if uninterrupted. My eyes remain closed for 2 more seconds. When they open on a recording, I am staring upward at empty air. There is no visible presence in the room, no distortion, no shadow clinging to the lens. I rewind again and count internally, matching the seconds I force myself to endure in darkness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At 6, the hesitation in the fan aligns precisely with the appearance of the form. The timestamp does not skip. The recording does not cut. Whatever occupies that frame exists within the continuity of time. I sit back slowly, the phone warm in my hand. If this were only neurological misfiring, the camera would remain neutral. It would show nothing but a man lying rigid in his bed. Instead, it shows a presence synchronized with the exact duration of my closed eyes. The rule was never only about distance across the room. It was about how long I surrendered sight. At 6 seconds, it did not simply approach. It arrived. I thought daylight would reset it. I was wrong. That is how I know the pattern has shifted again. I fall asleep on the couch mid-afternoon, not intending to, just resting my eyes after reviewing the footage too many times. Sunlight fills the living room. The television is off. The house is quiet but awake in a daytime way. Pipes faintly ticking, distant traffic steady and harmless. There is nothing atmospheric about it, nothing suggestive. That makes what happens feel more deliberate. I wake into paralysis instantly. No gradual confusion. My body locks against the couch cushions, arms heavy at my sides, chest moving in shallow pulls. The sunlight is still there, cutting clean shapes across the carpet. The front door is closed. The hallway is bright. For a split second, I believe this might be different because it is daytime. Then I see it. It stands at the end of the couch, already within arm's reach. There is no starting distance anymore. No respectful space across a room. It has recalibrated to proximity. The outline is clearer in daylight, not because it is more detail, but because it interrupts light rather than blending into shadow. It absorbs brightness the way it absorbed darkness before. Do not close your eyes. The rule surfaces automatically, sharper than ever. I lock my gaze onto where its face should be. The fan in the bedroom is not here to carry whispers, but the room still feels acoustically altered, as though sound is being dampened around us. It does not move while I stare directly at it. The sunlight remains steady. The dust motes in the air hang motionless. My eyes begin to burn quickly despite the brightness. The dryness feels disproportionate to the environment, as if something in the air is thinning deliberately. I shift my focus slightly, just to test. The instant my gaze drifts to the window beside it, the figure tilts forward by inches. Not a full step, not a relocation across space, a compression of distance. When I snap my eyes back to it directly, it freezes again. It doesn't like being seen. The realization is not emotional. It is mechanical. Observation restricts it. Direct focus immobilizes it completely. Peripheral attention allows partial adjustment. Full darkness grants it movement without visible transition. The sunlight does not weaken it. The location does not weaken it. Only sight does. My eyelids tremble violently. The urge to blink feels amplified, almost imposed. There is no fan whisper here, no mechanical rhythm threading words beneath it. Instead, there is a pressure against my awareness, as though something resents the clarity of being observed. You're not supposed to see. The thought arrives without sound, without vibration. It simply forms in my mind with the same foreign certainty the original rule carried. The figure remains inches away, angled downward toward me, studying the fact that I am studying it. And for the first time, I sense something beyond hunger for proximity. I sense irritation. That afternoon changes the math. Until now, I believe distance reset each night, that whatever progress it made toward me dissolved with daylight, forcing it to begin again across the room. But when it appeared beside the couch in full sun, already within reach, I understood that accumulation does not disappear. It carries forward. The starting point shifts permanently. I do not sleep the next night. I try to stay awake through it, pacing the house, turning on lights I normally leave off, letting the television murmur at low volume just to fracture the silence. The fan in the bedroom remains off. I cannot tolerate the clicking. I sit upright in bed near dawn, certain that if I avoid sleep entirely, I can interrupt the pattern. I wake into paralysis anyway. There is no transition. My body locks in place, though I remember sitting upright moments before. The room is dim with early morning gray. The door is closed. The closet is open 2 inches. The fan is still off. It stands at the side of the bed immediately, not at the foot, not across the room, at the side. The baseline has moved again. Do not close your eyes. The rule feels strained now, as if it requires more effort to enforce. My eyes burn instantly, as though the dryness has been waiting. The air near my face feels thin and metallic. I keep my gaze locked directly on it. It does not move, but something about its outline is more stable than before. The proportions hold longer. The impression of eyes remains fixed instead of dissolving under scrutiny. You're not supposed to see. The thought presses again, firmer, not spoken aloud, not whispered, inserted. I try to reconstruct the pattern clearly. Small blinks granted feet. 1 second closures granted full relocation. 6 seconds brought above me. The footage confirmed that at 6 seconds, it occupied space over my body. How many full closures have I allowed? The first night, brief accidental blink. Movement. The second, 2 longer closures. Advancement to the side of the bed. The recorded night, a full 6-second surrender. I feel the calculation form with cold precision. 3 voluntary closures. That is the threshold implied by the pattern. 2 have already happened deliberately. The 6-second test was the second. This will be the third. The awareness settles heavily into my chest. If I close my eyes fully now, if I surrender even once more on purpose, there may not be distance left to measure. It stands so close that the edge of it interrupts the faint light from a window. The space between where its face should be and my own feels minimal, unstable. My eyelids tremble violently. The dryness is unbearable. Tears stream sideways across the pillow. The urge to blink is no longer reflexive. It feels orchestrated. Close them. The command returns, faint but focused. I keep my eyes open, because I understand now that the third blink is not about proximity. It is about alignment, and it is waiting for me to complete it. I decide that if paralysis is the doorway, then exhaustion might be the lock. The episodes have followed sleep with clinical precision. If I remove sleep, I remove the interval where it operates. That logic is simple enough to hold on to. I stay awake for 36 hours. Not dramatically. I don't pace and panic. I sit in lit rooms. I drink water. I let the television run at low volume, without really watching it. I avoid caffeine because I don't want artificial alertness. I want to push my body to its natural edge and hold it there. By the second night, the house begins to feel subtly misaligned. Distances seem slightly longer when I walk down the hallway. The front door looks farther from the living room couch than it should. The mirror in the bathroom reflects my movements a fraction slower than expected. Not enough to confirm, just enough to question. I blame fatigue. Sleep deprivation alters perception. That is documented. My eyes ache constantly now, not just during episodes. The whites are webbed with red. Blinking brings momentary relief, but also a sharp awareness of how often I used to close them without thinking. I avoid lying down. At hour 32, my body begins to override intention. My thoughts fragment. Sounds stretch slightly before resolving. The refrigerator hum feels deeper than usual. The air in the house feels thin. I sit upright in bed, lights on, back against the headboard. The fan remains off. The door is closed. The closet is shut completely this time, though I know that won't matter. I tell myself I will not sleep. My head drops forward once. I jerk it upright. It happens again. The third time, I do not catch it. Paralysis takes me instantly. The lights are still on. The room is bright. It stands directly in front of me, no more than a foot away. There is no approach anymore. No gradual advance across measured distance. It begins where it intends to finish. Do not close your eyes. The rule surfaces, strained but present. My body is locked upright against the headboard. My breathing is shallow. My vision swims from exhaustion. The brightness of the room does not diminish it. It absorbs the light cleanly, interrupting it without casting a conventional shadow. You're not supposed to see. The thought presses again, stronger than before. My eyelids tremble violently. The dryness is unbearable. My body craves a relief of full closure more than it craves movement. It leans closer by inches when my focus wavers for even a fraction of a second. I understand now that exhaustion does not prevent it. It weakens me, and weakness is exactly what it needs. My vision blurs from exhaustion, but I force it to sharpen. The room is fully lit. The overhead bulb hums faintly. The door is closed. The closet is shut. None of it matters. It stands less than a foot away, angled toward me, its proportions disturbingly stable. The outline no longer flickers under scrutiny. The impressions where eyes should be remain fixed, dark and patient. Do not close your eyes. The rule feels thin now, stretched across too many nights. My eyelids tremble uncontrollably. The dryness has become pain, a raw, scraping sensation every time the fanless air moves across them. Tears spill freely, distorting the shape in front of me. When my focus fractures even slightly, it shifts closer by fractions of inches. Not a step, a compression, as if the space between us is folding. You're not supposed to see. The thought is firmer now, almost resentful. My head remains pinned upright against the headboard. My arms are dead weight at my sides. The only thing I control is the aperture of my vision. The exhaustion wins for half a second. My eyes close involuntarily. Not a full surrender. Not deliberate. Just a collapse of muscle under strain. Darkness closes over me completely. Clearer, smoother, more narratable. In that instant, I feel it move through me rather than toward me. The air changes temperature abruptly, turning cold and metallic in my lungs. There's a sensation of overlap, like two images trying to occupy the same space. My chest tightens as if something aligns along my spine from the inside. My eyes snap open. The room floods back into view. It is no longer entirely in front of me. Part of it intersects my outline. Its face is inches from mine, but the edges of it blur into my shoulders, my torso. The proportions match more closely than ever. The impressions where eyes should be aligned almost perfectly with my own. The distance between us is nearly gone. The third blink has not completed fully, but it has begun something. I feel pressure behind my eyes, as if something is testing the interior from within. My breathing becomes ragged, shallow, and fast, though my body remains immobilized. It does not speak now. It studies. I hold my eyes open with everything I have left. The pain is overwhelming, but the alternative feels irreversible. The overlap recedes slightly as long as I maintain sight, as if observation pushes it back into singular form. The merge did not finish, but it started, and I know with absolute clarity that if my eyes close completely again, even for a second longer than before, there will be no separation left to recover. The episode stopped for 3 nights. That should feel like relief. Instead, it feels like a pause in a conversation that hasn't ended. I sleep with the lights on now, not because light weakens it, I know better, but because darkness feels like participation. The fan remains off. The silence in the room is heavier without its clicking, but I prefer clean quiet to layered sound. Nothing happens. No paralysis. No locked limbs. No shadow interrupting space. I wake normally. I move normally. The house behaves. But something is slightly misaligned. Daylight feels thinner, as if the brightness is surface level. Colors look correct, yet flattened. The edges of furniture seem sharper than they should be, as though outlined with faint pressure. When I walk past a bathroom mirror, my reflection follows a fraction too precisely, correcting itself into place rather than flowing naturally. I tell myself this is sleep deprivation residue, neurological lag, anxiety. Still, I begin to notice something else. Blinking feels different, not painful anymore, but monitored. Each time my eyelids close fully, even during the day, there's a faint sensation of depth behind them, like standing at the edge of a drop in complete darkness. It lasts only as long as the blink itself, a fraction of a second, then normal vision returns. I tested in the kitchen one afternoon. I stand facing the refrigerator and close my eyes deliberately for 1 second. Nothing happens. No shift in space. No sound. No presence. But when I open them, the room feels slightly closer to me than before. not physically smaller, just nearer, as a perspective adjusted by an imperceptible margin. The fan in the bedroom, though unused, moves once on its own, just a small twitch of a blade while I am standing in the doorway. There is no wind, no vent pushing air. The chain does not swing. It corrects itself into stillness immediately. I do not investigate further. At night, I lie on my back and keep my eyes open longer than necessary, not because paralysis has returned, but because closing them feels like crossing a boundary I can no longer measure. The rule still exists. Do not close your eyes during paralysis, but I am beginning to understand something worse. The paralysis may have been the safest version of this, because now, even fully awake, I am aware of the space between blinks, and it no longer feels empty. By the fourth night without an episode, I should have relaxed. Instead, I have adapted. I no longer blink fully unless I have to. I let my eyelids meet halfway, just enough to moisten the surface before reopening them. It is subtle. No one would notice in conversation, but I am aware of it constantly. The restraint feels like holding a door closed with my foot. My eyes ache less now, but the sensation behind them has changed. It is not dryness anymore. It is pressure, a quiet awareness that there is depth there, that closing them completely is no longer a neutral act. I test myself in small, controlled moments. Standing at the sink, I close my eyes fully for a single second. Darkness falls. There is no whisper, no cold air, no shadow forming in front of me, but there is presence, not external, internal, a sense of alignment just beneath the surface of my thoughts, like something adjusting posture behind my vision. When I open my eyes, the kitchen looks normal. The faucet drips once. The refrigerator hums. Still, I feel slightly off-center, as if my body is fractionally out of sync with itself. At night, I leave the lights on and lie flat on my back. I wait for the weight of paralysis to return, almost welcoming it now because it provided structure. During paralysis, the rule was clear. Eyes open meant separation. Eyes closed meant advance. Awake, the boundaries are less defined. I notice that reflections behave differently than they used to. When I pass the hallway mirror, my image holds eye contact a fraction longer than I intend before correcting. The delay is subtle, plausible as imagination, but consistent enough that I stop meeting my own gaze directly. The fan in the bedroom remains off, yet sometimes I hear a faint metallic click in the quiet, spaced roughly 6 seconds apart. There is no movement overhead when I look. I sleep in fragments now, short intervals, light and easily broken. Each time I wake, I confirm that I can move immediately. No paralysis, no figure beside the bed. But something has changed permanently. Blinking feels shared. When my eyelids close, even for an instant, I sense observation from the inside of the dark rather than from across the room. The distance it once crossed physically no longer matters. The approach is complete in another way. The merge did not finish, but it left a seam. And I live carefully now, aware that the smallest, most ordinary act, closing my eyes, may not belong entirely to me anymore. I am not telling you this because I want attention. I am telling you because structure matters. When something follows rules, you can survive it. For weeks now, I have slept lightly, moved carefully, and monitored my own reflexes with more awareness than I thought possible. The paralysis has not returned in the same way. There has been no figure standing across the room, no hovering shape eclipsing the ceiling, no whisper braided into the fan's rotation. But the rule remains, and that is the part one cannot ignore. During paralysis, if it happens to you, do not close your eyes, not even to escape it, not even because you think it will shorten the episode. Do not surrender full darkness willingly. Direct sight restricts it. Attention immobilizes it. The moment you close your eyes completely, you give it depth to move through. I tested that more than once. Distance shortened, proportions aligned. It began to approximate me. This is not folklore. I searched for it. I found nothing that matched the structure I experienced. Medical explanations account for hallucinations, pressure, dread. They do not account for measured advancement tied to duration of sightlessness. They do not account for footage showing interruption in physical space. You may never experience this. Most people who have sleep paralysis report shadow figures that vanish with light or movement. I am not claiming universality. I am describing pattern. If it happens to you, I hope you keep your eyes open. Focus directly. Do not let it remain in peripheral vision. Do not close them to make it stop. The urge will be overwhelming. It will align with physical pain. It may even feel merciful. It is not. I live normally now on the surface. I go to work. I walk through grocery stores. I hold conversations without anyone noticing how rarely I blink fully. But I have learned something about darkness that I cannot unlearn. It is not empty, and it does not require a room to cross anymore. I have not slept properly in days. Not because I am afraid of paralysis returning in its original form, but because I am aware now of what happens in smaller intervals. The large manifestations were easier to track. They occupied space across the room. They followed visible increments. Now the movement feels internal, subtle, threaded through ordinary behavior. I am recording this in my bedroom with the lights on. The fan is off. The door is closed. The closet is shut completely. Everything is controlled. You can probably hear the stillness in my voice. I am not whispering. I am not panicking. I am simply aware. I sit on the edge of the bed while speaking. Eyes open longer than comfortable, allowing them to close only halfway between sentences. Blinking feels different now. When my eyelids meet fully, even for a fraction of a second, there is depth behind them. Not visual imagery, not dream fragments. Just depth, as if space continues when sight does not. Earlier tonight, I closed my eyes deliberately while awake. I counted 1 second. Nothing moved in the room, but when I opened them, the air felt occupied, not in front of me, aligned with me. The fan behind me just shifted slightly. You may not hear it, but I felt the change in pressure when it corrected itself back to stillness. There is no airflow, no vent pushing air through the room. It moved anyway. I keep my eyes open. That is the rule. Not because something is standing across from me right now. I do not see a figure in the corner. I do not see an outline beside the dresser. The difference is more precise than that. When I close my eyes now, I do not feel alone inside the dark. There's a presence in that interval, not approaching, already here. The merge did not complete visibly, but something aligned enough that the boundary between observer and observed no longer feels fixed. If paralysis ever happens to you, stay awake inside it. Keep your eyes open no matter how much they burn. Do not give it a third closure. Do not let it finish calibrating. I am going to try to sleep after this. I have to. My body is failing from the strain. But I will do what I have practiced. I will keep my eyes open as long as possible. I will resist the depth behind them. And if the fan begins clicking again, even though it is off, I will not close them. It didn't want to replace me. It wanted to stop being separate.